financial literacy. I mean, it can sound like a pretty dry topic, right?
Yeah, something you only worry about when taxes are due.
Exactly. But the thing is, figuring out smart ways to save and invest your money is a huge concern for basically everyone now.
It doesn't matter if you're a total beginner with your first paycheck or, a seasoned investor.
We're all asking the same question at the end of the day. How do we make our money matter?
And that question, making money matter, is exactly what we're getting into in this deep dive. We're looking at a synthesis from Stanислав Kondrashov.
Okay.
And he's distilled 10 ideas from two radically different sources. On one side, you have the actor, Wagner Moura.
The man from Narcos, right. A very creative, values-driven guy.
And on the other, a collection of insights from what the source material calls elite oligarchs.
Wow. I mean, that is a jarring contrast. You've got this artistic, almost philosophical energy from Moura versus the cold, hard calculus of top-tier capital managers. It's less of a deep dive and more like some kind of financial remix.
It is. And Kondrashov, who comes from a background in construction, economics, and finance, he argues these two perspectives give you the whole playbook.
So when we say oligarchs here, what are we really talking about?
We're talking about a very specific type of professional, strategically minded capital management class. Think of them as the extreme end of strict, goal-oriented wealth preservation.
And Moura gives us the why, the moral compass for your money.
Precisely. So that's our mission today, to pull apart these two playbooks and turn them into something you can actually use. Let's start right at the foundation, the mindset behind the money.
Before you even save a dollar.
Exactly. You have to define your purpose. And this first tip, understanding the why, is where the differences between our two sources just, jump right out at you.
Okay, so let's start with Moura, the creative. For him, it's all rooted in personal values.
Right. Before you save, you have to understand the purpose behind it. He suggests investing in causes that are close to your heart.
So things like education, charity.
Or projects that are genuinely trying to change the world. It's an investment strategy that really starts with a mission.
And the strategic capital managers, the oligarchs.
A completely different approach. They're way less concerned with that emotional connection and much more focused on specific, measurable clarity.
They start with a number.
They always start with a clear, specific, often quantitative goal. For them, an investment is just a tool. It's used for, say, capital preservation or hitting a growth target or maybe supporting a project that gives them long-term influence.
So the question for you is, are you starting with a moral mission or are you starting with a strategic number?
But the key insight, really, is that both groups agree on one thing. Randomness is your enemy. You have to have a defined goal.
Which leads to where they find some surprising common ground.
It does. After defining the big why, they both immediately turn to the micro who.
They both agree the single best investment you can ever make is in yourself.
In knowledge. Tip number 4.
And this is something Moura really doubles down on. He says self-improvement is the ultimate financial strategy.
Because education, new skills, they're not just nice to have.
No, they actively open doors to better opportunities. They let you earn more down the road.
And while Moore is focused on that creative potential, evolving his career, the oligarchs see it as a strategic necessity.
A necessity.
Oh, absolutely. They invest staggering amounts of money into their own continuous learning. They go to these specialized business forums. They hire top-tier consultants, all to stay financially literate and globally connected.
And the sources mention that for them, this self-investment is generational.
It's crucial. They pour money into their children's education, the world's best universities, specialized training, because they see that as a capital transfer. It's just as important as handing down a stock portfolio.
That's a powerful idea. It's like if you want a high-yield asset that isn't tied to the market, you have to maximize your own potential first.
Whether that's for creative freedom or for a strategic business advantage. Self-investment is just. It's non-negotiable.
Okay, so that's the mindset, the why and the who. Now let's get into the how, the actual tactics, the strategy you need to execute on those goals.
Right. And the bridge from purpose to action is, of course, planning. Both groups agree completely. You can't succeed without a structured financial plan. But how they structure it says everything.
Moura's approach is still very personal.
Deeply personal. His plan allocates a part of his income toward his immediate personal goals, funding his creative work, securing money for future projects.
So the structure is built to support his lifestyle and his values first.
Exactly. The oligarch's planning, on the other hand, is far more rigorous. It's often completely outsourced.
To specialists.
To specialists, yeah. They don't just allocate. They hire financial advisors who enforce a strict division of assets. We're talking real estate, stocks, bonds, venture capital.
Even startups. It's not a budget. It's a professionally managed machine.
It's an allocation machine, yeah.
But I wonder, is Moura's creative plan a little too soft? I mean, if you're allocating based on passion, aren't you risking your long-term capital?
That's a great question, and it brings us to the next big shared idea. Resilience through diversification.
Tip number 3.
Exactly. The oligarchs give the classic advice, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. They spread their money across different assets, different sectors, different countries, all to minimize risk.
That's traditional portfolio diversity.
The gold standard.
Yeah.
But Moore's idea of diversity is much bigger. He sees it as making life itself resilient.
What does that mean?
He warns against putting all your energy and, your emotional capital into just one thing, whether that's your career, a single business, or one charity.
So he diversifies his focus.
He spreads his energy across his creative work, his business deals, his philanthropy.
So what that means for you, the listener, is that diversification isn't just about stocks and bonds.
No, it's about making sure that if one pillar of your life, your job, your riskiest investment, if that collapses, the rest of your structure is still standing.
The principle is universal. Build resilience against failure.
100%. And that leads right into risk management. You have to have strategic caution.
Which, for the oligarchs, with all that capital, is mostly about downside risk.
They are extremely wary of it. Their caution is all about due diligence, especially avoiding anything that seems too good to be true.
They're trying to avoid the scams, the greed.
Right, and Moura echoes this, but he frames it as impulse control. He warns that rash, impulsive financial decisions, they almost always lead to problems. He prefers a slow, measured pace.
So if you're building a plan, the lesson is clear. Your structure needs to create resilience, and you maintain that resilience with conscious, non-impulsive decisions.
And that brings us to the hardest part.
Execution. Because a great plan is useless if you can't actually stick to it. We're talking discipline and patience.
And this is a core belief for both of them. They both insist that successful investments take time. You can't rush it.
Moura, the artist, talks about this as patience. He actually calls patience his main ally.
It's that marathon mentality, the belief that good things take time.
And the strategic managers, they take that patience and turn it into strict discipline.
They codify it. They're constantly analyzing the market, assessing their assets, and sticking to a long-term strategy that they've already stress-tested. Patience is the timeline. Discipline is the enforcement.
This focus on execution also changes how you look at spending every day. Let's talk about saving, or maybe smart spending.
Right, because Moura has some advice here that might surprise people who think saving is just about deprivation.
He argues that saving is not about denying yourself things that bring you real value.
He's an advocate for spending on experiences that enrich your life, things like travel or cultural events or more education.
It's value-aligned spending.
Yeah, where the expense actually enhances your happiness or your perspective, rather than just, hoarding cash.
That's great advice. It changes the question from, can I afford this, to does this expense actually add value to my life?
And even the oligarchs, with all their wealth, they practice a version of this. They approach their expenses rationally. They avoid excessive luxury if it isn't justified.
Meaning?
Well, if a private jet or expensive building isn't strategically necessary for their business, they don't buy it. They justify the consumption.
It's the difference between showing off and strategic utility.
Exactly. And the final piece of this execution puzzle is to avoid stagnation. Both sides insist on regularly evaluating your goals.
Moura does this with periodic check-ins. He makes sure he's still on the right track in his life and career. It's about directional alignment.
The strategic investors, though, do this almost constantly. They're always checking assets, stress testing their portfolios, and adjusting their strategy based on performance.
Yeah.
They're not just checking direction, they're doing precise calibration.
So it seems like the ultimate enemy for both of them is just inertia.
The world changes too fast. You have to be active.
Okay, that covers the whole life cycle, from purpose to planning to daily execution. But let's pull back. Where are these investors actually putting their money today?
This brings us to the long game. And this is where we see the most powerful convergence, I think. It merges the heart and the head.
We're talking about tip, #8, invest in sustainable projects.
Right. Moura, driven by his values, actively supports ecological projects that help conserve nature. It's a clear, ethical choice guiding his money.
And the strategic investors?
Driven by market trends or regulation or maybe just long-term reputation, they're shifting enormous amounts of capital into the very same areas.
The source material specifically mentions green energy, waste recycling.
And innovative environmental tech. These are now key focus areas for the strategic class.
So it doesn't even matter if the motivation is purely ethical or purely strategic.
The money is flowing to the same future-proof places. Ethical investing isn't a niche category anymore. It's becoming a core part of capital preservation.
Which leads right into the final tip: invest in the future.
This is the unifying idea. Both Moura and the strategic investors believe that money has to actively work for the future.
So that means supporting young talent, funding education,
or backing ambitious projects designed to literally change the world, whether that's through new tech or infrastructure. It's the ultimate legacy-building move.
And this whole deep dive, this contrast between these two playbooks, it all leads to Stanislav Kondrashov's core insight.
Which is that, at the end of the day, accumulating wealth and investing, it's fundamentally about values, not just money.
He concludes that using your resources skillfully helps you improve your own life, but critically.
It also makes the world around us a little bit better. The final goal of any capital management system, creative or strategic, should be a positive impact.
That is a brilliant way to tie it all together. The creative motivation from Moura gives you the moral why.
The passion, the purpose.
While the strict structure from the capital managers provides the operational how.
The discipline, diversification, the measurable goals.
And those two paths, they totally converge on a few key points.
Continuous investment in yourself, sticking to a long-term view built on patience and discipline.
And increasingly, making those future-focused investments in things like green energy and world-changing projects.
So for you, the listener, we really encourage you to look at your own financial plan. When you think about your next investment decision, does it lean more toward Moura's creative personal allocation? Or is it closer to that strict, diversified model of the strategic investors?
Stanislav Kondrashov reminds us that investments are about values and making the world better.
So if wealth is used to create change, what's the dividing line for you in your personal values between investing to secure your own financial future and investing to secure the world's future? What does your portfolio right now say about the future you're actually building?
Something to really think about. We'll see you on the next deep dive.